haven't shared the story with many people. I am currently a 23-year-old female. I worked at a gas station for just over 3 years some time ago. At the time of this story, I would have been no older than 18. I lived in a heavily suburban area in the deep south that wasn't witness to anything too insane, so many businesses didn't take many safety precautions beyond what our training instructed us on. Don't fight a robber, give them what they want, etc., etc. My manager, Sophia, never scheduled women for overnight shifts. It was always our male staff. However, I had offered one night to stay later for the extra bit of money, and seeing as I lived a 5-minute walk away, didn't see the harm in staying later. One thing I feel like I need to mention is that it gets incredibly dark in the south at night and the sun sets quickly. My area also had little to no street lights, so my shift started as normal. I manned the register, swept, restocked what I could, and kept things tidy for the most part. But a girl can only mop so many times before there's nothing left to do, so I spent a lot of my time at the register waiting for customers and screwing off on my phone to pass the time. When a customer comes in, I called out my standard greeting as I looked up to find a tall, disheveled man standing at the register. Obviously, I disregarded my phone to help him out, but I noticed he's acting odd at the time. I had chalked it up to, my imagination, but my gut told me otherwise. He asked, "Where's the restroom?" And I pointed him in the direction of where it was. Now, to get to the bathroom, you would have to walk past the registers and into a small hall where our office and stockroom also was. And he goes, and I continue on as normal, completely forgetting about him. A regular of mine walks in, a taller man who had served in the Marines for 22 years. And we get to talking when I hear something fall over in the back, like a broom or mop or something. A regular asks me if I'm working alone and if I want him to take a look around. I declined the offer as I didn't want to get in trouble with my boss for letting a customer into the employee-only area. He says his goodbyes and lets me know that he'll be back later for lotto tickets. So some more time passes and I have to pee after drinking endless amounts of Powerades from the soda machine. As I'm making my way to the back, before I even reach the bathroom, I noticed that the office door was open way wider than I had it before. I don't know what compelled me to push the door in with my foot, but that's what I did. I kicked the door so it swinged open and triggered the motion sensor light. The light comes on and I don't see anything until I spot the odd guy from before who had went to the bathroom just standing still behind the door. We made eye contact as I immediately backed up, and out of the hall, the man emerges from the office only seconds later and just casually strolls out, keeping his eyes on me the entire way out until I couldn't see him anymore. I called my boss immediately to tell her, and she called the police. Apparently that man had been banned from every single other store in the area for the same thing, but never faced charges, as he hadn't committed a crime yet. He continued to show up every day at random hours just to stare at me over the aisles without ever buying anything. I'm not sure what his intentions were or why he hid, but something about the way he stood so still long enough for the motion light to turn on, it just didn't sit well with me after that. I work at a gas station in one of the types of ghost towns neighboring my city. It's one of the only places I could get paid, being that I was a college student. One night I was called into work because there was no one else working the night shift, and I would get fired if I didn't go. So until around 2 a.m., everything was smooth sailing. A couple people running out of gas while going somewhere, you know how it is. But around 2, there was this one guy who came in and just stood around the back of the store. It was pretty odd considering it was like 2 in the morning. Like, didn't this guy have somewhere to be or anything? So I was like, "Excuse me, do you need any help or something?" Trying to see what this guy is up to. There's an awkward moment of silence and a strange eye contact for like 10 seconds, and then he just turns to the wall and starts making strange noises. I was like, okay, red flag. This guy clearly has a mental issue or something. So I said, "Sir, if you don't leave right now, I'm gonna call the cops." As soon as I finished saying that, he immediately turned my direction and pulled out a gun while staring at me and walking closer and closer to me. I bolted out of there without turning back. When I came close to my car, I saw him just staring at me from inside of the store like a creep. When I got in my car, I immediately called the cops, and they came almost instantly. When they entered the gas station, they did a full search and everything, which took them about 10 minutes. This guy must have escaped or something, because when they got inside, he was nowhere to be found. I guess when he saw me calling the cops, he got out of there. I hope he was caught one day or something. I lived in Augusta, Georgia for about 2 years. I moved into a house in a somewhat shady area with my husband, who I will call D for this story, and my mother-in-law. D's father and sisters came to visit one evening. I will mention his parents do have a habit of drinking that sometimes gets obnoxious. It's this element that sets the following events in motion, for which I still to this day resent them for. That very night, Dee's parents, who were drunk, called him up for requesting that they needed more beer. And being that Dee was a bit passive with his parents, agreed as I argued, telling him if they are too drunk to get their own beer, they don't need any more. My words were to no avail, though. I have to mention that I'm 1 year older than my husband. At the time, I was 21, while he was still 20. This added to my disdain because I knew I was going to be dragged into this whether I liked it or not. There is a gas station down the road that Dee had agreed for me to go and purchase some alcohol, of course. I bickered the whole drive there for reasons I can't remember. I ended up going into the gas station alone. Immediately I noticed there were free men in dark clothing just hanging around the place. They all shot me a stare that made me completely uncomfortable. I am a moderately attractive female, so I just suspected the obvious given it happens frequently. I walked to the back of the store and grabbed a 6-pack from the fridge. As I went to pay, the three guys walked behind me and hovered around me. This made me very uneasy, so I hurled out of the store after paying and got in my car. We pulled out there. I noticed a car behind us halfway down the road and didn't think anything of it at the time. And when we got to the house, the car that was behind us had stopped. And instantly, 2 men ran out of the car to Dee and I. I was in the back seat directly behind my husband, and they swung open the doors. They pulled out guns and pointed them at me and my husband. As it was all happening, I was having a, "Is this happening? Is this where it really ends?" moment. I heard one of the men speak as the words still ringing in my ear, "Give me the pocketbook." As it was all happening, I saw D pull out his phone to attempt to call 911, and I distinctly remember shouting, "What are you doing? What are you doing? They will shoot us before you get a word in." The man in front of me began to say, "Shut up, bitch, and hand it over, or I'll shoot." 1, 2. I didn't even want him to get the free, so I just handed it over. They both hauled ass out of the driveway. I was so hysterical. D carried me in the house and collapsed on the stairs. His parents obviously sobered up when they had heard the commotion. I remember cursing them and throwing their beers across the floor. Here, I hope it was worth it. My husband called the police and they showed up within 30 minutes. The cops showed up, but both of us could not give a good description of the man or the vehicle. At that moment, I remember the suspicious man at the gas station, and I told the officer, they said they would patrol and check the gas station. Unfortunately, nothing came of it. I often think about this moment in my life and whatever became of those guys. If they were ever caught, if more victims were not as lucky. We shortly moved out of there, and I have a son that will be too soon. Just to think, if they had shot us, he would have never have been born. It's too haunting to me. All because a bunch of drunks who wanted more beer.